A description of the life of Mohammad bin Zakaria al-Razi from the discovery of alcohol to her other important discoveries. Abu Bakr Mohammad bin Zakaria Razi was one of the greatest scientists and doctors in the world, to the extent that George Sarton, the father of the history of science, considered Razi the greatest Turkmen physician of Iran in the middle centuries. It is interesting to know that what is done today in modern medicine and surgery goes back to Razi's initial findings and actions. For example, he was one of the first to realize the ability to transplant human organs, and even in an important operation, he transplanted a sheep's intestine to a human intestine. Mohammad bin Zakaria Razi was born in the month of Shaban in the year 251 AH, which is the height of the flourishing of Islamic science, culture and civilization in the 3rd century, and in the city of Ray. His father, whose name was Zakaria, was an ordinary goldsmith who did not have much education and lived with the little income he got from this way. Razi spent his childhood and adolescence in the city of Ray. At that time, Ray was one of the scientific and cultural centers of the Islamic world, and this caused Razi's further progress in learning various sciences. There is no accurate evidence that specifies at what age Mohammad bin Zakaria started his specialized education and under which professors he was trained. However, it seems that he first learned goldsmithing from his father, then he became interested in alchemy and chemistry. Mohammad bin Zakaria achieved mastery and skill in chemistry, philosophy, and natural sciences before the age of 35. In his early youth, he started his alchemical activities, and during this time he conducted experiments that resulted in the invention and discovery of substances such as arsenic, hydrochloric acid, and alcohol. One day, he is injured in one of these experiments, so that the smoke and acid damage his eyes and prevent him from continuing. Razi, who goes to the doctor for his treatment, becomes interested in medicine after observing the importance of medical work and its impact on people's health. Razi learned medical sciences between the ages of 30 and 40 and became one of the most skilled doctors in the world in a short period of time. So that he was called the father of Arab medicine and Galenus Arab. It is understood from the sources that he traveled to Baghdad to learn medicine. At that time, Baghdad was the cradle of medicine in Islamic lands, because it had many hospitals and various medical books from world scientists were translated there. The exact date of Razi's trip to Baghdad and the duration of his stay in that city are not known. He traveled there during the Caliphate of Mu'tazid, the Abbasid Caliph, and worked in one of the Baghdad hospitals to learn medicine experimentally. Therefore, most of his knowledge was acquired through hospital observations and practical experiences. This feature is evident in his works and compositions in this field. After a short period of time, Mohammad bin Zakaria gained a lot of fame and prestige in Baghdad, to the point where he was among the nobles and nobles. This caused jealousy and resentment of other doctors and forced Razi to leave the city. The date of Razi's return to his hometown has been estimated between 290 and 292 AH. After returning to Ray, he was appointed as the head of its hospital and treated patients and taught his students. In fact, one of Razi's most important measures was to cultivate students such as Abul Hassan Tabari, Yahya ibn Adi, Abu Ghanem Tabib, who expanded his medical knowledge and promoted it among the people. Meanwhile, his teaching style was also remarkable. He was at the top of the class, and his students and their novices were placed in the lower rows. When the disease came, he asked the first person. If he didn't know the answer, he would go to higher people, and if they didn't know anything, Razi himself would give them the answer. This method was a modern method that increased knowledge and interest in medicine among his students. During Zakaria Razi's medical practice in Ray, Abu Salah Mansur bin Ishaq was the ruler of the city and had a good relationship with Razi. Amir Mansur went from Ray to Nishabur in 295 AH and took over the government there. Some time later, he fell ill in the same city, and because he believed in the power of Mohammad bin Zakaria's medicine, he requested him to come to Nishabur for treatment. Razi went there following the ruler's request and was able to cure him quickly. After that, he stayed with the ruler for about a year, received his favor and attention, and became more famous and popular than before. There is no reliable information about Zakaria Razi's personal and family life. He apparently had a failed marriage or lost his wife at an early age, because in the last years of his life, he was alone and poor and had a chaotic situation. In addition, he did not have any children, or if he had a child, he was lost in childhood. Mohammad bin Zakaria, due to some reasons, became blind at the end of his life. Regarding the cause of his blindness, there are many narrations in books, none of which can be definitely confirmed. However, it seems that he lost his sight due to the alchemical experiments and the damage to his eyes caused by the acid experiments. He finally died in Ray on the 5th of Shaban 313 at the age of 62. Since he died in loneliness and disloyalty of the people of his time, his burial place has not been determined until now. Although some researchers have speculated about his burial in the area of Togrul Tower in City Ray or Imamzad Shoaib Ray, their correctness and inaccuracy cannot be proven. At the beginning of learning the science of medicine, Razi got acquainted with the opinions of Hippocrates, Galen and other Greek doctors. By combining those ideas with his chemistry and alchemy experiences, he achieved new innovations in pharmacy and medicine. Razi was one of the first people who discussed bone fractures, types of surgery, kidney stones, tooth extraction, and the use of alcohol in infections and proposed new ideas about them. One of the greatest memories of Mohammad bin Zakaria Razi in medicine is the preparation of daily reports and notes about the condition of patients and how to treat them. This custom is common in many hospitals around the world today. The book Al-Hawi, which is one of the largest and most reliable works authored by Razi, is dedicated to this topic. This book is the first medical encyclopedia in the world, which has 30 sections, and today half of it has been lost. At the end of his life, Mohammad bin Zakaria wrote about the authoring of this work. I worked for 15 years day and night until my hand muscles became paralyzed and my eyes became dark. I am still busy reading and writing it, and I always hire someone to help me write it. Another important work of Mohammad bin Zakaria in medicine was the book Al-Mansuri. In this book, he wrote about the parts of the human body and their functions, along with how to describe them. In those days, dissection of the human body was not a common and proper thing. For this reason apparently, Razi dissected the corpses of monkeys and even tested his innovative medicines and compounds on them. In this way, he was able to make several discoveries about the functioning of the human body in the intestines, kidneys, bladder, neck muscles, head and heart, and help advance the medical knowledge of the world. Another medical book by Zakaria Razi is the book Al-Jadri and Al-Hasba, which is dedicated to the causes, symptoms and treatment of smallpox and measles. He was one of the first to diagnose smallpox and distinguish it from measles and rubella. In a part of this book it is stated as follows. The occurrence of smallpox is accompanied by continuous fever, pain in the shoulder area, blood pooling in the face, concentration of saliva, sore throat and hoarseness of voice, itching of the nose and shivering during sleep. Excitement, nausea and restlessness are symptoms of rubella, while shoulder and back pain indicate smallpox. Although Razi is most famous for his medical knowledge in diagnosing and treating patients, his alchemical skills cannot be overlooked. To the extent that many Western experts consider Mohammad bin Zakaria Razi as the father of chemistry. The new method that he invented based on his experience and rational reasoning in the chemistry industry and the naming and classification of substances that he did, left a great impact on the chemists after him. He was the first person who made the material related to chemical sciences simple and understandable and gave it a scientific aspect. Razi was one of the first scientists who classified different tools for melting metals. In the many researches he did, he was able to make a substance that had antiseptic properties from the distillation of wine and called it alcohol. This substance, which later became known as alcohol, was one of the greatest alchemical achievements of Mohammad bin Zakaria. In addition, he made sulfuric acid from iron sulfate and discovered how to make important substances such as arsenic, ammonium carbonate, and even crude oil distillation. Razi even extended his knowledge of alchemy to medicine and discovered and used poisonous alkaloid drugs to treat his patients. Razi authored several important works in the science of chemistry. The two books, Al-Madkhal al-Daghadi and Al-Asrar, are among the most important of them. In these works, he classified the materials and specified methods for examining and describing them. For example, his Book of Secrets was dedicated to the description of chemical processes such as distillation and crystallization and the working of alchemical tools. His method in these works was the systematic classification of materials and tools based on their color, smell, material, hardness, and use, which later became a practical guidebook for chemists. Unlike the philosophers of his time, Razi did not base his philosophical views on Greek and Islamic philosophy, but on Iranian, Babylonian, and Indian philosophy and ideas. He based his ideas on wisdom and empiricism. For this reason, he was against Aristotle's theories in some cases and used to criticize them in his works. Razi wrote about 17 books describing and criticizing the philosophical works of philosophers before him and expressed his ontological theories in separate works. The main basis of his philosophy and cosmology were 5 principles: creator, spirit, space, time and matter. Although Razi was one of the most famous doctors and alchemists of his time, he did not benefit from the wealth of the world and lived in poverty and dervishness. He was the doctor of the common people, and despite the fact that in those days, it was common to rely on the people of power and authority, he did not treat any other king or commander, except for Mansur bin Ishaq. Razi was one of the first people who criticized ignorant and irresponsible doctors who appear to be scholars and enlighten people's minds about their moral characteristics. Mohammad bin Zakaria mastered most of the common sciences of his time, as he wrote about 270 works on various subjects such as astronomy, philosophy, medicine, chemistry, theology, etc., and made them available to people. Contrary to the usual tradition of that time, he was against Aristotle's ontological ideas and was more influenced by the opinions of people like Pythagoras, Epicurus, and Democritus. He believed in the theories related to the atom, the components of the vacuum and the 5 elements, and he even analyzed and explained them in many cases. Razi used to say, "God gave us rationality so that we can use it for both worlds. It is with reason that we are superior to animals and can use their power. Achieving dreams is only possible through the use of wisdom. By using it, we become proficient in various sciences and understand concepts that were unknown and far from our minds before. In short, man without wisdom is no different from animals and madmen." Mohammad bin Zakaria Razi is one of the greatest scientists and explorers in the world. Among Westerners, he is known as Al-Razi or Razes and has a lot of fame. Some people call Razi by the name of Zakaria, if Zakaria was his father's name and he was known by the name of Muhammad and the title of Abu Bakr.